But hang on a minute, let's put it a different way. If the Prime Minister has lied to the Commons, do you agree that's a resignation event?
Yes.
Therefore, I'm asking you, Laura Trott,
Well and truly, with the government, shit government.
We're just being let down, we're being let down.
In the past, Tommy Robinson was labeled as a far-right fascist. They tried to do everything between imprisoning him to silencing him, anything you can name it, taking away his social media accounts. But now the tide shifts.
Yeah.
Who is Tommy Robinson to you guys?
Well, he's the voice of our nature.
Like Charlie Kirk, he's a truth teller. He tells you how it is. And that's what Tommy Robinson is. Good
He's
man.
the voice of our country. He's the voice of our country.
Well, he's the only one that spoke up for us.
So if it wasn't for Tommy Robinson, none of this would be possible right now.
Probably not, no. Probably not. Probably not.
Would you say this is a revolution, a revolt?
I think it's getting there, isn't it?
We're heading that way. We're definitely heading that way. If we don't speak up and do something, we just want, a nice, easy life. We just want equality. We want.
Something shocking is unfolding right now in Britain. Keir Starmer, the man who promised to restore integrity to politics, has crossed a line that millions of people will never forgive. After one of the biggest rallies in modern British history, ordinary citizens waving their flags, standing shoulder to shoulder in support of free speech and national pride, Starmer decided to brand them as dangerous. He didn't praise the families who marched peacefully, he didn't acknowledge the veterans who stood tall, and he certainly didn't respect the ordinary men and women who turned London into a sea of patriotism. Instead, he smeared them, pouring scorn on the very people who are supposed to be at the heart of his leadership. And the timing couldn't be worse because while Starmer tries to look tough on so-called division, his own government is falling apart under the weight of scandal, rebellion and betrayal. Tonight's story is not just about one tweet or one insult. It's about a Prime Minister whose grip on power is slipping, whose enemies are circling, and whose party is staring into the abyss. The Unite the Kingdom rally was unlike anything Britain has seen in years. Over 1 million people took to the streets of London, not extremists, not radicals, but families, workers, grandparents and veterans who believe in their country and in their right to speak freely. It was a movement of ordinary voices coming together, demanding respect and recognition. Even broadcasters like Sky News, often quick to dismiss patriotic marches, had to admit the truth. This crowd was striking because of how normal it was. You could walk among them and see your neighbours, your co-workers, even your local shopkeeper. It wasn't a fringe, it was the heart of the nation rising up. And yet, instead of listening, instead of respecting that unity, Keir Starmer took to X and delivered a message dripping with contempt. He wrote about intimidation, about violence, about division. He wrapped his words in the language of tolerance and diversity. But the meaning was clear. If you carry your nation's flag, if you call yourself a patriot, if you dare to stand up for your culture, then in Starmer's eyes, you are the problem. It was an insult, not just to those who marched, but to every Brit who dares to be proud of where they come from. For years, we've heard that this same tired narrative, the flag is dangerous, patriotism is suspicious, national pride is something to be ashamed of. But this time, it isn't just offensive. It's politically suicidal. Why? Because Starmer has chosen to shame the very people whose trust he desperately needs. His own party is already fractured. His leadership is already under fire, and now he has handed Reform UK the greatest gift they could ask for, proof that Labour despises ordinary British values. Nigel Farage and his team wasted no time pointing out the betrayal. They framed Starmer as a man so out of touch that he would rather attack families marching peacefully than confront the scandals inside his own cabinet. And the public is listening. Poll after poll shows Reform surging while Labour crumbles. The message is resonating. Starmer insults, Farage listens, Starmer dismisses, Reform rises. But the story doesn't stop with one disastrous tweet, because behind the scenes, Labour is tearing itself apart. Ministers are whispering about rebellion, backbenchers are plotting, and the scandals piling up on Starmer's desk are growing impossible to ignore. At the centre of it all lies one name that refuses to go away, Lord Mandelson. Starmer's decision to appoint Mandelson as ambassador to the United States without a proper vetting process has exploded into a full-blown crisis. Leaked documents and emails tie Mandelson more deeply to Jeffrey Epstein than the public was ever told, and now Starmer's judgment is under the microscope. How could a Prime Minister preach about values while elevating a man entangled in one of the most toxic scandals of modern times? The fallout has been brutal. Newspapers across the spectrum have run stories demanding answers. Opposition leaders smell blood in the voiture, and perhaps most damning of all, Labour MPs themselves are beginning to break ranks. One cabinet minister told The Times it's pretty terminal. The only question left is who replaces him. Another declared there is no content, no agenda, no leadership. These aren't the words of the opposition. These are Labour's own voices turning against their leader. For Starmer, the walls are closing in. Meanwhile, Reform UK is seizing every opportunity. Their recent by-election victories have sent shockwaves through Westminster. In places where Labour once felt untouchable, the turquoise wave is washing away decades of loyalty. Constituency after constituency is flipping, and the message from voters is loud and clear. They are done with being ignored, smeared and betrayed. In Pell Wall, Labour was humiliated, falling behind the Greens and barely scraping triple digits in the vote count. In Stockfield, Bedfordshire, Reform didn't just compete. They stormed ahead, crushing Labour and sending a message that the old party loyalties are dead. And in Newmarket East, West Suffolk, Labour slipped to fourth place, proving that even their heartlands are crumbling. This is why Starmer's words about tolerance and respect ring so hollow, because while he scolds the British people for daring to stand proud, his own party is engulfed in corruption, betrayal and chaos. He talks about diversity while clinging to Mandelson, a man tied to Epstein. He speaks of respect while his MPs openly mock his lack of leadership, and he dares to brand Patriots as dangerous while his own government threatens to collapse at any moment. The contrast is devastating. On one side, families, veterans, workers and citizens peacefully marching for their country. On the other, a Prime Minister smearing them, scandals piling up, rebels plotting, and a party that no longer believes in its leader. It is a picture of collapse, not strength. And as Nigel Farage and Reform UK rise higher in the polls, Starmer finds himself standing on quicksand, unable to move, unable to lead, and unable to stop the tidal wave that is coming straight for him. The deeper you look into Starmer's leadership, the clearer the cracks become. What started as whispers in Westminster has turned into an open revolt. Ministers who once defended him on television now refuse to answer questions. Backbenchers who once clapped dutifully at his speeches are plotting in the corridors, weighing up who might take his place. For any leader, discontent within the party is dangerous. But for Keir Starmer, the danger is existential. He came into power promising discipline, unity and professionalism. Now all three are in ruins. The Mandelson scandal is only the tip of the iceberg. Emails, briefings and leaks are hitting the press on a daily basis, each one chipping away at the fragile authority Starmer still clings to. The appointment without vetting is seen as arrogance. The Epstein connection is viewed as toxic, and the excuses being given by Downing Street sound desperate. The Prime Minister claims he acted in the national interest, but even allies struggle to defend him. Instead of appearing strong, Starmer looks like a man trapped, desperately clinging to allies whose reputations are radioactive. And it isn't just Mandelson. Other names are surfacing in scandals that Labour can't contain. Questions over dodgy donations, accusations of misuse of expenses and claims of internal bullying are flooding the headlines. What once looked like a party ready for government now looks like a house of cards, shaking in the wind. The opposition doesn't even have to land blows anymore. Labour is tearing itself apart in public. Inside the party, a leadership struggle is already taking shape. Andy Burnham is the name on everyone's lips, seen by many as the man who could steady the ship. He's popular in the north, charismatic compared to Starmer, and untainted by the scandals engulfing Westminster. Suspended MP Andrew Gwynn has been told privately that his time is up, clearing the path for Burnham to make his move. But Burnham isn't alone. Other figures within Labour's cabinet see themselves as contenders. Some want to wait until Starmer formally collapses. Others are sharpening their knives now, ready to strike before Reform UK grows too powerful to stop. And while Labour consumes itself in betrayal and backstabbing, Nigel Farage is playing a masterstroke. Every by-election defeat, every leaked email, every angry minister is turned into ammunition. Reform's social media channels are booming. Their rallies are packed. And the polling is astonishing. Recent surveys show Reform surging to 34%, nearly double Labour's dismal 19%. If an election were held today, projections suggest Farage could walk into number 10 with a landslide majority of more than 400 MPs. That's not just defeat for Labour, that's obliteration. Whole swathes of the country that Labour once called their heartlands would vanish in a single night, replaced by turquoise banners and Reform candidates. This is why Starmer's position is more precarious than any Prime Minister in recent history. He doesn't just face an opposition party, he faces a movement. The Unite the Kingdom rally was proof of that. Millions of people are willing to stand in the streets and demand change. That energy cannot be brushed aside with a tweet about tolerance and diversity. It is growing, spreading and hardening into a force that even the mainstream media cannot ignore. Farage has tapped into something that Labour abandoned long ago, pride, patriotism and the simple idea that ordinary people deserve a voice. Starmer, meanwhile, looks weaker by the day. Even his attempts to project authority backfire. When he speaks of unity, his party mocks him. When he talks about values, the press points to Mandelson. When he dares to lecture the public, Reform's poll numbers rise higher. He is stuck in a vicious cycle. The more he attacks Patriots, the more he alienates voters. The more he defends Mandelson, the more scandals pile up. The more he clings to power, the more his MPS prepare to push him out. And the pressure is not just political, it's international. Elon Musk's video message at the Unite the Kingdom rally landed like a thunderclap. Musk's call for the dissolution of Parliament and a fresh election made headlines worldwide. His warning that Britain cannot survive 4 more years of rudderless leadership struck a chord not just with the public, but with investors, business leaders, and even foreign governments. Add to that the looming arrival of Donald Trump for a second state visit where a landmark tech deal is expected to dominate talks. And suddenly Starmer looks completely irrelevant on the global stage. While world leaders discuss the future, Britain's Prime Minister is bogged down in scandals and rebellions. For the British people, the contrast couldn't be sharper. On one side, a collapsing Labour government riddled with corruption, infighting and weakness. On the other, a rising reform movement promising strength, clarity and respect for ordinary citizens. The choice is becoming clear. And Starmer knows it. That is why he lashes out at Patriots, because he is terrified of them. He fears their unity, their numbers and their determination. He knows that every flag waved in London, every cheer for reform, every by-election defeat brings him one step closer to the end. The story of Keir Starmer is no longer about whether he can win the next election. It's about whether he can survive the next month. His enemies are not hiding in the shadows. They are out in the open, sharpening their knives. His scandals are not whispers. They are front-page news. And the movement against him is no longer fringe. It is millions strong and growing by the day. The tide has turned and Keir Starmer is drowning. The whispers of rebellion inside Labour have now grown into open threats. What was once quiet speculation has transformed into blunt conversations in the corridors of Westminster. Keir Starmer cannot survive. Cabinet ministers who should be defending him are instead leaking their frustrations to the press. Backbench MPs are openly testing the waters, gauging support for alternative leaders. The atmosphere around Starmer is not one of loyalty or patience. It is one of vultures circling, waiting for the final collapse. Reports from inside the Times and the Telegraph reveal that Labour rebels are already sketching out succession plans. Some want Andy Burnham to seize the moment, a northern voice who could reconnect with voters abandoned by Labour. Others are looking at figures within Starmer's own shadow cabinet, men and women who are watching their leader stumble and wondering if they could do better. It's a feeding frenzy. And the most dangerous part, Starmer knows it. Every meeting, every cabinet session, every press conference, he is surrounded not by allies, but by rivals sharpening their knives. And this rebellion isn't just about personalities, it's about survival. Labour MPs look at the polls and see disaster. They see Nigel Farage not just catching up, but racing past them. They see Reform UK sweeping council seats, humiliating Labour in by-elections and eating into both their working class base and middle class swing voters. They know that if Starmer leads them into a general election, the party will not just lose, it will be annihilated. For many MPs, clinging to Starmer now is political suicide. They must act, and soon. Meanwhile, outside the Labour Party, the momentum of Reform UK is becoming unstoppable. The turquoise wave has turned into something more, a national realignment. Constituencies that had been Labour strongholds for generations are falling like dominoes. Reform candidates aren't just winning, they are dominating, leaving Labour trailing behind Greens and Independents. For the first time in modern history, voters are breaking away from the two-party system in massive numbers, and it is Labour who are bleeding the most. The old Labour heartlands, the coal towns, the industrial north, the working-class suburbs are turning their backs, and Starmer, instead of fighting for them, has chosen to shame them. This is why his tweet about violence, fear and division has done more damage than any scandal could. For millions of ordinary Britons, it confirmed what they already suspected. Labour does not respect them. Labour does not listen to them. Labour does not stand with them. Instead, the party sneers at their patriotism and brands them as dangerous. Nigel Farage understands this perfectly. His speeches hammer home the contrast. Reform respects the people, Labour insults them. Reform welcomes the flag, Labour fears it. Reform listens, Labour lectures. Every insult from Starmer is another gift to Reform's campaign. And while Reform rises, the establishment is panicking. Business leaders, investors and international allies are watching the numbers and asking the unthinkable. Is Britain about to put Nigel Farage in number 10? Elon Musk's intervention at the Unite the Kingdom rally only intensified that fear. When one of the world's most powerful businessmen calls for Parliament to dissolve, people listen. Musk's words reverberated far beyond Britain. They sent a signal to the markets, to Washington and to Brussels. Starmer's government is weak, divided and on borrowed time. Add Donald Trump's imminent visit to the UK with a promise of trade deals that could reshape Britain's economy, and suddenly Farage looks less like an outsider and more like the man world leaders are preparing to do business with. The cracks in Labour are now impossible to plaster over. Every day brings a new scandal, a new leak, a new betrayal. Lord Mandelson, far from being silenced, remains a ticking time bomb. His name linked to Epstein in ways that terrify Labour strategists. Ministers are openly asking why Starmer tied himself so closely to such a figure. The press is circling, preparing fresh revelations that could blow the government apart. And the public, they've already made up their minds. Labour is not the future, it is the past. Reform is the movement of tomorrow. The question is no longer if Starmer will fall, but how. Will it be a cabinet coup with ministers resigning en masse until he is forced out? Will it be the rebels moving swiftly to crown Andy Burnham or another challenger? Or will it be the people themselves rising at the ballot box to deliver a landslide for Reform UK that erases Labour from the map? However it happens, one thing is certain: Starmer's final days are upon him. He has insulted the Patriots, betrayed his supporters and lost the trust of his own MPs. No leader can survive that combination. And so Britain stands on the brink of a political earthquake. The establishment is in panic, the Labour Party is in meltdown, and a new force is rising to take its place. Keir Starmer, once hailed as the man who would steady Labour's ship, now finds himself as the captain of a sinking vessel. The waters are closing in, the lifeboats are gone, and the crew is ready to mutiny. The only question left is this: when the final blow comes, who will deliver it? The scale of Labour's meltdown cannot be overstated. This is not a minor dip in the polls. This is a collapse, a free fall, an implosion. Reform UK isn't just overtaking Labour, they're crushing them. The by-election defeats prove it, the polls confirm it, the rallies show it. Ordinary people, once resigned to holding their nose and voting Labour, are walking away in their millions. They're voting Reform, cheering Farage and rejecting Starmer's entire vision of Britain. And the more Starmer lashes out, the faster they leave. Inside Westminster, panic has set in. Some MPs want to move quickly to install Andy Burnham or another replacement before the general election wipes them out completely. Others argue it's already too late, that Labour should brace for annihilation and rebuild from the ashes. Neither option offers salvation for Starmer. His authority is shot, his credibility destroyed, and his party is openly preparing for life after him. The knives are not just being sharpened, they are being drawn. Every day he stays in office only deepens the humiliation. Outside the corridors of power, the world is watching Elon Musk's call for a snap election expose the weakness of Starmer's grip. Donald Trump's looming visit threatens to overshadow him completely, with trade deals and tech agreements that would leave Starmer looking like a bystander in his own country. The press is circling, international leaders are hedging, and even the financial markets are bracing for turbulence. Britain doesn't just look unstable, it looks leaderless. And in politics, perception is everything. For Starmer, the betrayal is complete. He thought he could shame Patriots into silence. He thought he could ride out the Mandelson scandal. He thought he could hold Labour together long enough to fight the next election. But he miscalculated. He underestimated the strength of the people who marched in London, the resilience of a movement that refuses to be silenced, and the hunger of Reform UK to tear down the old order. Every insult he threw at British patriots came back at him tenfold. Every scandal dragged him deeper into the mud, and every by-election defeat pushed Labour closer to irrelevance. And now the verdict is clear. The people no longer believe in him. His party no longer supports him. The establishment no longer trusts him. Keir Starmer's days are numbered. Britain is heading for a political earthquake. And when the dust settles, it won't be Labour standing tall. It will be reform. Nigel Farage has built a tidal wave of support, and that wave is crashing straight into Westminster. Starmer can tweet about tolerance and respect all he likes, but history will remember him as the Prime Minister who insulted his own people, lost his own party, and collapsed under the weight of his own scandals. The Patriots who filled London stood united, peaceful and proud. They showed the world that Britain is not broken, it is rising. And as Labour crumbles and Starmer faces his final days, one truth becomes impossible to deny. The future belongs not to the politicians who sneer at their own nation, but to the people who stand for it. The establishment is in panic, the elites are losing control, and the tide of change is unstoppable. Keir Starmer has lost Britain, and Britain is ready to move on without him.